Meet Al Capone, the legendary gangster whose name became synonymous with organized crime in America. From his humble beginnings in the streets of New York City to his meteoric rise as the most feared and powerful figure in Chicago's underworld, Capone's story is one of ambition, violence, and intrigue. But how did a young Italian immigrant transform himself into the notorious Scarface? What drove Capone to pursue a life of crime? And how did he navigate the treacherous world of Prohibition-era America to amass unimaginable wealth and power? Join us as we dive into the captivating story of the greatest gangster America has ever known. Born in 1899 to an Italian family in New York City, Al Capone's upbringing was marked by early signs of his destined path. Growing up amidst ethnic tensions, he exhibited leadership qualities, forming a gang and engaging in confrontations, foreshadowing his future in the underworld. Expelled from school at 14 years old, he embraced life outside conventional norms, drifting through various jobs until guarding a bar owned by gangster Frankie Yale, where he earned the name Scarface after a violent encounter. Driven by ambition, Capone delved deeper into organized crime, leveraging his association with Yale to ascend in prominence. Despite setbacks, including brushes with the law, his ambition remained constant. Under the mentorship of Johnny Toro, he honed his skills, leading to a symbiotic relationship as they climbed the ladder of power. Together, love intervened when Capone met Malin, an Irish girl, leading to marriage and the birth of their son, Albert. Despite efforts to lead a respectable life, Capone's return to the underworld was inevitable after his father's passing. Reuniting with Toro, they ventured to Chicago, where under Big Jim Colosimo's patronage, Capone's notoriety soared, solidifying his status in the criminal underworld. The enactment of Prohibition in the 1920s presented a new opportunity for Capone and Toro as they envisioned vast profits in the illegal alcohol trade. However, tensions escalated with rival gangs, culminating in violent conflicts and the infamous Valentine's Day Massacre, attributed to Capone's reign. However, his aspirations clashed with the reticence of his superior, Big Jim Colosimo, who preferred to stick to the lucrative domains of gambling and prostitution. Determined, Al Capone, recognizing the immense potential of the illegal liquor trade, proposed a daring alternative to Johnny Toro: eliminate Big Jim to clear the path for their ascension. The audacious plan, though initially met with skepticism, eventually won Johnny Toro's approval. With the wheels set in motion, Frankie Yale, a former associate of Capone, executed the assassination of Big Jim Colosimo on May 11, 1920. In the aftermath, Johnny Toro swiftly assumed leadership, catapulting both himself and Capone into positions of unparalleled influence within the Chicago underworld. Amidst the chaos, Johnny Toro advocated for a more strategic approach, urging Capone to temper his fondness for violence with diplomacy. He recognized the value of intellect over brute force, emphasizing the importance of discretion and cunning in navigating the treacherous waters of organized crime. As tensions escalated and Chicago descended into its bloodiest era, Johnny Toro's guidance served as a beacon of pragmatism amidst the storm of violence. Through his tutelage, Capone learned the art of subtlety, mastering the delicate balance between coercion and negotiation in his quest for supremacy. As Al Capone ascended the ranks of organized crime alongside his mentor Johnny Toro, he absorbed invaluable lessons in strategy and pragmatism. With a shrewd eye for opportunity, the gang pivoted towards the illegal liquor trade, capitalizing on Prohibition's prohibition to amass vast fortunes. Capone, recognizing the potency of diplomacy over brute force, employed a sophisticated network of bribes to secure control over Chicago's underworld. However, as his influence burgeoned, Capone developed a liking for luxury, flaunting his wealth and status with flamboyant displays. Adorned fancy attire and boasting a diamond ring worth $50,000, Capone relished the spotlight, cultivating an image of influence and power. Yet, his liking for spectacle attracted unwanted scrutiny, worsening the mounting charges against him. In a bid to whitewash his image, Capone portrayed himself as a benevolent benefactor, channeling funds to the less fortunate and garnering public adoration. Despite his philanthropic facade, Capone's criminal activities remained thinly veiled, concealed behind a facade of legitimate businesses, including furniture stores serving as fronts for his illegal operations. With his wealth and influence surging, Capone's monthly income soared to over $100 million, a staggering sum even by today's standards. Yet this was merely the genesis of Capone's empire, as he and Toro sought to expand their reach into the rural hinterlands surrounding Chicago. Amidst tightening law enforcement in the urban center, the rural expanses offered fertile ground for further expansion and increased profitability. Eager to consolidate his power and ensure the prosperity of his kin, Capone relocated his family from New York City to a lavish house in Chicago. Welcoming his older brothers Ralph and Frank into the fold, Capone entrusted them with key roles within his burgeoning syndicate, cementing their collective grip on the city's underworld. In 1923, as the Outfit Gang, led by Johnny Toro and Al Capone, consolidated their dominance over Chicago's underworld, a tide of envy and greed surged among rival gangs. Desperate to claim a larger slice of the illegal liquor trade, these competitors encroached upon Outfit territory, sparking a vicious conflict known as the Beer Wars. Throughout that year, the streets of Chicago ran red with blood as armed skirmishes, assassinations, and bombings ravaged the city. However, by 1924, the dust began to settle, granting Johnny Toro and Al Capone a semblance of stability. With Toro temporarily departing for Italy to tend to his ailing mother, Capone assumed full control of the gang, cementing his position as the undisputed ruler of Chicago's criminal underworld. Reports suggested that an astonishing 60% of Chicago's officials and police officers were under Capone's sway, ensuring his dominance over the city. Under Capone's reign, corruption flourished unchecked. His brothers, Frank and Ralph, manipulated election results with impunity, brazenly tampering with votes and intimidating voters to secure favorable outcomes. Yet, their audacious actions drew the rage of outraged citizens, prompting Judge Edmund Jarecki to intervene. Sending 70 undercover officers to Cesare's town, a stronghold of the Capone gang, Judge Jarecki sought to restore order and hold the criminals accountable. Among the officers lurked Frank Al Capone, who mistook them for rival gang members and initiated a deadly shootout. In the ensuing chaos, Frank met his demise, leaving Al Capone consumed by grief and vengeance. Affected by the loss of his brother, Capone's demeanor grew increasingly volatile. Despite efforts to adhere to Johnny Toro's guidance, his thirst for retribution overwhelmed him. In one instance, he confronted an Irish gangster named Howard, who had assaulted one of his men, unleashing a torrent of violence in a bid to assert his dominance. In an audacious display of power, Al Capone confronted Howard, the Irish gangster who had insulted him, in a crowded bar. When Howard brazenly insulted him again, Capone swiftly executed him with a shot to the head, demonstrating his utter disregard for consequences. Despite the presence of numerous witnesses, Capone remained unperturbed, confident that fear and corruption would ensure their silence. However, Johnny Toro's return from Italy provided a temporary reprieve from Capone's escalating violence. With Toro's guidance, Capone momentarily tempered his aggression, but the death of his brother reignited his brutal tendencies. Capone's transformation into a ruthless leader was marked by his unflinching resolve to eliminate anyone who opposed him, regardless of the consequences. Capone's rise to power was characterized by a chilling display of dominance. Under his command, Chicago's underworld resembled a corporate empire, meticulously organized to maximize profits. Yet, amidst the facade of business shrewdness lay a dark underbelly of violence and corruption, where rivals were silenced with ruthless efficiency. One such conflict arose with the North Side Gang, culminating in a dramatic shootout at a restaurant. Despite the onslaught of gunfire, miraculously, no fatalities occurred, demonstrating Capone's iron grip over the city. Yet his relentless pursuit of dominance led to further clashes, including the infamous Valentine's Day Massacre. George Clarence "Bugs" Moran, born August 21, 1893, was a notorious American gangster prominent during the Prohibition era in Chicago. Despite attending a Catholic school, Moran joined a local gang and dropped out at 18. He faced repeated incarcerations before turning 21, setting the stage for his criminal career. The 1920 establishment of Prohibition led to bootlegging, sparking violent clashes between Moran's North Side Gang and Al Capone's Italian mob. Their fierce rivalry culminated in the infamous Bootleg Battle of the Marne, marking a dark chapter in Chicago's history of organized crime. Planned as an ambush against Bugs Moran and his gang, the massacre ended in bloodshed but failed to eliminate its intended target. Moran's unexpected delay spared his life, but the carnage shocked the city and drew unwanted attention to Capone's reign of terror. As authorities closed in on Capone as he sought refuge in Florida, attempting to establish an alibi for the massacre. Nevertheless, the atrocity thrust him under the scrutiny of law enforcement, marking the beginning of his eventual downfall. Despite his iron-fisted control, Capone's violent reign would soon come to an end as the law tightened its grip around Chicago's most notorious gangster. In 1930, Al Capone ascended to the notorious title of Public Enemy Number 1 by the FBI, his criminal activities well known but difficult to prosecute. After numerous failed attempts to convict him, authorities finally succeeded in proving a single charge against him: tax evasion. However, Capone's expected tactics of bribery and intimidation faltered when the judge swiftly replaced the entire jury without prior notice. Facing unfamiliar jurors, Capone found himself convicted of tax evasion and sentenced to an unprecedented 11 years in prison in 1931, marking a significant blow to his criminal empire. Despite imprisonment, Capone continued to wield influence over his gang from behind bars, prompting his transfer to the impenetrable Alcatraz in 1934. Alcatraz's isolation plunged Capone into a world of complete detachment from his former life. But his downfall took a more tragic turn as syphilis ravaged his mind. By 1939, Capone's mental faculties had regressed to that of a child, prompting his release from prison due to his incapacitation. He spent his remaining years afflicted by the disease until his death in 1947 at the age of 48. Capone's pitiful demise stood in stark contrast to his infamous criminal career, yet his legacy endures as one of history's most notorious figures. Don't forget to hit the like button if you found the content informative and engaging. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our channel for more fascinating stories.